Good nutrition seems to be an answer to really a lot of things that ail us.
Yes.
But it's not promoted, it's not talked about. The doctor, if you go to his office, won't talk about it much.
Right.
Why is that?
Well, they're not trained in nutrition, for one, unless they go outside of their training after they become doctors, and those I respect that they do that. But remember, it's a drug-based model. Nutrition is something we've kind of paid lip service to. We think about it, but we really don't. In our culture, and I grew up as an American, as any American has, food was more of a convenience in the sense, how fast can we get it in us and keep going, right? Our culture kind of developed like, quick, eat, run, right? As opposed to enjoying sitting down, actually eating a meal. Gastronomy, they say in France, however. The quality of food didn't matter to me. I grew up with the 4 food groups. You remember those?
Oh.
Pizza, hot dogs, Coca-Cola, and potato chips, right? And then it changed to a pyramid, and then it went to multiple pyramids. Now it's a beautiful little plate, right, with different colors. It's like, if you're getting your nutritional information from the government, I don't have a lot of hope for your survival, at this point. So the reality is health food stores, companies like Swanson that are providing nutrition out there, accessible, affordable, are really doing the lion's share of what's very important to bring about the healing revolution that needs to happen here in America, despite all of the regulatory burden against all that we're doing. These are the heroes to me. And of course, we're going to have to see that open up wider and wider, because a lot of the poorest among us that are being hammered the worst, whereas, even those that are for the poor, right? We need to provide health care for the poor. No, they don't. They're wanting to provide is drugs for the poor. The poor already are drugged beyond belief. They can access all of it. They don't need more drugs. They need nutrition. We need people going into the inner cities and turning little plots of land into gardens to grow. And there are people doing this now, which is very exciting. But in some cases, they're actually trying to shut down these gardens because they're not zoned for that. Get rid of that. We need to literally go back to accessing the soil and, learning to nurture it and nourish it and get back to the point where we have connection to the food that we eat. That is the solution for the poorest among us, much less the wealthiest who are thinking that they can eat refined foods and be healthy. They're going to end up, on drugs. Look at Steve Jobs of Apple. I mean, was it liver failure, liver cancer? He's got all the money in the world, but he still chose to go to modern medicine, as far as I know, and it hasn't done him all that good at this point. So, it isn't a matter of how wealthy you are. The poorest among us can be the healthiest. In fact, when we're not surrounded by the trappings of a lot of the electronic media, we can see clearly about things. Common sense can, come back in. We grow our own food, and we'll survive the collapse. Those that are detached and don't even understand farming and nutrition, they're going to be in a lot of trouble. They may have access to things now, but what if the distribution networks break down because the economy breaks down? Are we planning? Are we prepared for that? We've got to be prepared, and we've got to have the superfoods ready for the time where we don't have access to the foods the simple way until we reset the economy.
We'll talk about some of those, the superfoods. What do we have to have ready, and then how can we do that? I
think one of the things that people overlook are the fats. Honestly, we've become a fat-phobic culture. High caloric dense, but nutrient dense as well. It's the fats like coconut oil. But believe me, even saturated fat is good for us. We're not talking about toxic fats that, animals that are raised commercially, conventionally with synthetics as well as antibiotic residues and heavy metals as such. But we talk about, embracing fat once again is going to be very important for our caloric needs, so we aren't starving. But the superfoods also include, obviously, the green foods, the seaweeds, the sea vegetations. Concerns me now that which is coming from Japan because of Fukushima as well. But sea vegetation you can still get that's clean and good for you, has high content minerals, selenium as well, iodine. These are very important. People have talked about a lot of the other green foods, the barley grasses, the spirulinas as well. I think one of the greatest superfoods that needs to be restored here, the growing of it, is hemp. We have got to legalize that which was used to write. In other words, we have a Declaration of Independence, and it was written on hemp, and we've made it illegal. Hemp doesn't get you high, and yet it's illegal to grow. Our farmers are hurting. Kentucky, other areas, the breadbasket, if they grew hemp, it doesn't need pesticides. It rehabilitates the soil. We're importing our hemp from Canada, from China. Why? We can grow more hemp than anywhere else in the world here in America. So hemp is another superfood with a great omega-369 ratio, essential fats as well as minerals, good protein content. That as a superfood is something that is overlooked and needs to be legalized. Again, only hear things from Dr. Ron Paul on this issue. It's like, why are we not, this is insane what's happened here. So there are other things, but those are a few that come to mind right away.